I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Chris Buckman.
Here.
Carol Hadawin.
Here.
Larry Mangan.
Here.
Jason Newberry.
Here.
Deanna Garber.
Here.
Tom Henning.
Here.
Pat Zika.
Here.
Okay, so we need an adoption of agenda number 1.
I move we adopt agenda number 1.
Okay, got a motion
Second.
and a second. All those in favor, raise your hand. All those opposed, same. Okay, so that passed. No patrons tonight, Adam?
Nope.
For this one?
Nope.
And our first action item is the revenue neutral tax rate.
Yes, so revenue neutral tax rate is a new meeting that we are required to do this year based off of legislation that happened in this last session. And so I'm gonna let Wendy explain all of that and what we need for this evening.
So the reason we actually had to publish and have this for this evening is because we are exceeding our revenue neutral rate for the general fund. The general fund is a set rate at 20 mils for the state. So for us to remain neutral, we would have had to come in at 19.957. And because it is a state statute that we bring it in at 20, that's why we're publishing right now. When valuations go up across the district, it's just going to be part of it. So it's just kind of a standard. If you look down through the other funds that are listed there, you're actually going to see that some of our other funds are going down as far as the tax amount that we are bringing in, generating this year versus last year. And that is because, and I know you guys haven't seen all of the results of our last year's audit yet, but we are actually ending with a better balance at the end of the year last year versus prior years. So it allows us to kind of ease up a little bit on our taxes for the community. So it's a good thing.
Any questions on that?
I talked to Wendy this afternoon, and I think I understand this now. We got 4 funds, and we went up in the general and up in the capital, but down in the other 2. But we still have to publish because overall, the mill levy's higher than it was last year. Is that right?
No, so this is specific to the actual tax rate. So if you see the column that has neutral tax rate, and you see where general fund says 19.95, and then you look over and you see the 20 mils listed there.
Need to do 20.
It's required.
So yeah.
Yeah, so we have to based on that. We don't have flexibility. There are other areas where you can flex on that, but you cannot because it is a state requirement.
And because the state has moved things to the dollars, not the mill levy, it forced our hand. We had no choice but to, as the mill levy fluctuates, or as the evaluation fluctuates year to year.
Yeah. So if our
It's gonna have to
valuations
be
went
addressed.
down, we may not have to do this, but
Yeah.
most likely we will.
But overall, we're actually levying less tax this year than we did last year.
Certainly,
Yeah.
But we still have to do it. Okay.
because it's tied to the dollar amount this year at the state.
It's
not-
the dollar amount, okay.
Yeah.
In each fund?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Any other questions on that?
Just gives you a better idea of what the actual dollars look like.
Does anybody know how to word that into a motion?
Yeah. Any guidance on that motion there, Adam?
Move to approve the revenue neutral tax rate.
I second it.
Sounds good to me.
Sounds
All
good
those
to
in
me.
favor, raise your hand. All those opposed, same. Okay,
There we go.
and no more items on that agenda, so I believe we are going to adjourn that meeting, correct?
Yes, that's
Yes.
correct.
Okay,
Wow, that's
I
quick.
believe we adjourn for 6 minutes
okay,
and start again at 6:10.
so we will be back in 6 minutes.
What am I gonna do?
forego the Pledge of Allegiance, since we just got done doing that, but we are gonna do another roll call.
Okay, Chris Buckman,
Yes.
Carol Hadamore,
Yes.
Larry Mangan.
Here.
Jason Newberry.
Here.
Deanna Garber.
Here.
Tom Henning.
Here.
Pat Zika.
Here.
Okay, move on to the adoption of the agenda.
Make a motion that we adopt the agenda as presented.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor, raise your hand. All those opposed, same. No patrons?
Nope.
And, first item is the discussion item of the 21-22 budget.
Yes. It is the time each year to take action on the budget. We presented it to you a couple weeks ago. It had then you published it to the community, and it has been out there for a couple weeks. And so any feedback we've gotten, I don't know that we've gotten any feedback on anything. So it is out there for action tonight, unless you have questions, and Wendy can explain anything that is on your mind prior to.
Any questions on the budget?
Just a couple of comments. It looks like the COVID money is in the federal
It is,
part of the budget, so that dramatically increased, didn't it?
yes.
Our contingency is getting up there, that's good. And
Yeah.
the capital outlay looks good too. Evidently, all the money we spent at the high school, that all kind of cleared through in 1920.
It did, you actually ended your budget in your, we transferred over some of your LD money at the end of the year last year over to contingency. So now you're sitting at 1.5 there. And your capital outlay is back to a healthier amount after the roof. We've done very well this last year as far as just being kind of conservative, not knowing where money was gonna fall with all the COVID stuff that was coming through, so.
That's good.
Any other questions on that? Okay,
I move we accept the 2021 budget as presented.
okay.
I'll second.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. So all those in favor, raise your hand. All those opposed, same. And seeing that is the only item on our agenda,
We adjourn.
we are adjourned.
Yes. And I believe we have that set for a 20-minute meeting. Sometimes budget can be
Sure.
a little bit of a conversation, so now you get a real
Break.
18-minute break. Congratulations.
Cool. Congratulations.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, back to volleyball.
On our phones?
That's right.
You'll want to.
Oh, we'll want to? Oh, okay. You set the bar high.
I did. I know.
Can see that we turned all the lights on.
Good.
Yep, we're good.
Okay. Call the meeting to order.
We turn all the lights on.
We're gonna move to the roll
You
call.
can see that.
Chris Buckman,
Here.
Carol Hadorn,
Here.
Larry Mangan,
Here.
Jason Newberry,
Here.
Deanna Garver,
Here.
Tom Henning,
Here.
Pat Zika.
Here.
Okay, next thing is the adoption of the agenda.
You think? There it is.
I make a motion that we approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
That takes away a glare over here that I couldn't see.
Okay, got a motion and a second. All those in favor, raise your
Like
hand.
this.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to
Can
do.
you see that?
Yep, I got it.
Okay.
Okay.
All those opposed, same?
There was a glare
Okay, great.
on me from that left
It's
side.
in too
No
bright anyway.
patrons to recognize, so first discussion item is the restructuring of the district. Adam?
Yes, and before we do that, Dr. Kern has something she wants to show. We showed this at Convocation for the first time as a promotional video that Shelby worked hard on this summer, working with Can Okla, and so we wanted to show it to the board.
Who are we? We are learners. We are artists. We are musicians. We are dancers. We are athletes. We are actors. We are intellects. We are creative. We are inspirations.
We are hard hitters.
We are a helping hand. We are trailblazers.
We are strong.
We are tradition. We are unique. We are achievers.
We rise.
We fall. We persevere.
We are the future. We are eagles. We are mustangs. We are patriots. We are cardinals.
We are knights.
We are all crusaders.
We all belong. This is us. I am proud. I am proud. I am proud.
I am proud.
I am proud.
I am proud.
I am proud. Will you join us?
Cool.
Nice.
Nice.
Yeah, it turned
Good
out
job.
really well.
Yeah.
Nice.
Good job, Shelby.
Oh, was it Shelby that did it? Oh, it was bad. Right, neighbor?
That's right, that's right.
Okay. So, wanted to have a discussion with the board tonight. Last year, we started talking about restructuring the district. And so kind of wanted to present some materials tonight to help drive that conversation throughout the school year this year. What we would want to kind of have a discussion with you tonight, get your opinions, get your feedback, your thoughts, and then what we plan to do with some of this material after we're done is revamp it and go out and meet with community groups. And before we do that, we will bring this back to you in September to approve at the September meeting before it gets out to the community. But material that we could go to, Chamber Coffee, we could go to lots of different community groups. We could also get this out to our site councils, get it out to people so that this becomes a discussion in our community and how we want to move forward with this particular topic. The board headed down this road last year with some different things, which will be part of this presentation to kind of pre-set up how this year was going to go. And so we will jump in. Jen? Okay. Working towards restructuring and our purpose and goal of that. Jen's fancy stuff she has on here. So the district's been in declining enrollment for a while now, probably around 20 years. We also obviously have a duty to look out for our taxpayer dollars. And we have a district goal, it is a district goal and also a part of our accreditation that we are interested in bringing early childhood programs to the district. And so all of those things kind of fit in under the restructuring piece, and all of those are also reflected in the goals that the district or the board approved for district goals this year. We've talked about over time that we have had declining enrollment for, like I said, for a number of years. We actually have it tracked at about 11 years back. We could go back further, but we feel like this is appropriate data to show that there is a short decline. Like I said, we're guessing it goes back even further than that, but this is at least the last 11 years to give you an idea of where we've gone. Yes, so as you can see, we're at about 1,450 students, and about 11 years ago, I believe we had 200 more students in the district at that time. It's closer to 1,650. And so our district does look quite a bit different than it did 11 years ago. For Wellington, that is not quite 2 full classes of kids. Our classes run typically around 120, and so that is quite a few students for our district over time. So we're going to talk about the different ways to meet the class size numbers. Go ahead, Jen. Different ways that we could possibly restructure to meet the class size numbers that the board approved last year, which was to drive this whole conversation. As you remember, we approved our younger grades, our kindergarten and first grade last year, to be at 15 students average across the district, for our second through fifth to be at 18, and then for our older kids in secondary to be at 24. So we are going to talk about some different ideas and put these out here. These are just ideas, so this is not to freak everybody out. This is just to show out for discussion. Like I said, this is going to be out a discussion in the community. At the end of the day, I know that the board is going to want the community to make the final decision with this and to give all the feedback back to the board. So the whole purpose of going through this process is to get all of that feedback back to the board for this. We go back one, Jim. Sure. So the things we're going to talk about is the options that are out there, and like we have there other ideas that we can bring up here. One of the ideas that has come up is possibly moving district boundaries as far as elementary schools. We are a district that just has 1 middle school and 1 high school, so that is not an issue, but we do currently have boundaries set up for our 4 elementary schools that feed in, and those have become disproportionate over time, and so that is a possibility, is to move district boundaries to make that happen. Another option is to create elementary attendance centers, and we'll talk about that here in a minute. And then any other ideas that the board comes up with, that the community comes up with, that we're not thinking about, that we can put as a part of this whole conversation. Yes, so options when it comes to preschool when we get there is for the district to have a district-wide preschool program, and then also for us to work with other preschool programs in the community, not necessarily to bring stress to that, but to build that relationship with them and try to be in a spot where we can influence students coming into our schools in kindergarten. Talking about the importance of kindergarten readiness. The history of this for the district is we have had 2 preschool classrooms in the past. We are down to 1 preschool classroom now, which is over at Lincoln. Previously, we have had preschool classrooms both at Kennedy and at Lincoln. And that is a Futures Unlimited run preschool classroom. But by giving up that space, it really has made it tight within those schools, especially at Lincoln. Has been tough to do, and we actually were using one of the outbuildings for most of the time that it was at Kennedy, so that helped there. We did move it inside 1 year, and so just trying to connect with those 4-year-olds in the community before they get into kindergarten.
Adam, is the private sector, doing this too?
Private sector has.
Are they having
Maybe preschool?
preschools?
You mean like the Christian Academy has a preschool? Is that what you
Okay.
mean?
That's
How many are
what it
there all together?
Christian Academy and then we
Methodist
too.
Church.
Is that it? I think that might be it. And Futures, obviously. Yeah.
Yeah, I see 11.
Yep, I think there's the three. So it'd be Methodist Church and then Christian Academy and Futures would be the
Do
three.
we have any idea how many preschoolers we're not serving? I mean, that don't go to preschool?
Yeah, I don't know that off the top
I
of
don't
my
know how
head.
you really,
Yeah.
I mean, I guess there's a
We
way.
would just have to get, I suppose we would have to
Yeah.
get their numbers and then subtract, well, what do we think an average class size is typically?
But the state, they're wanting us to do this, right? They're
Yes.
wanting us to do this. Okay.
Yep, this is actually a conversation all the way, President Biden's been talking about preschool programs, it's a conversation all the way up to the national level.
Can you have option one and option two? Can you continue? Can we just continue to do with futures, only expand maybe? Is that what, I mean, is that what that means?
Any of those are options,
Or-
yes. We can, if we choose to build a relationship with one of those providers, and then we are able to work with them to help provide programs, but we also possibly have space for that, and that, as long as they're getting served, that's the
Yeah,
piece.
okay.
And so however that looks in the end, whether it's a partnership with or we're taking it on ourselves, or a mixture of the two.
Well, for a while, I just thought we had to have our own in our own building, but then
Yeah, I think as long as we
As long
have,
as you're doing
as long as
something.
we're influencing, then we're in good
Mhm.
shape. So yeah, it does not have to be us, that's just an option. Okay, yeah, we've already talked about that. Obviously that is the goal, creating space, and we would, if we took it on ourselves, we would need to hire preschool teachers to fit those bills. But that may not happen depending on what Pat just said, whether we were partnering or whether we were doing it on our own at the end of this whole process.
I think they're as hard to find as regular teachers.
Yeah, they are.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, for sure.
Mhm.
Okay, I think we've kind of talked about that for the most part. Move on. Okay, so this is what we started last year. The board has been down this road already. How we achieve our goal, we set standard class size numbers. So we had conversations last year across the district, both with our staff and our teachers, our administrators, and then also with our site councils and other community groups to come up with our class sizes, which is 15, 18, and 22. I think I actually said 24 earlier, it's 22. And so that is what the board decided, and that was strictly based, it's very similar restructuring conversations this year would be very similar to what you saw with that last year, where I was bringing back feedback directly from teachers, directly from community groups and site councils that came up with those numbers based off of their expertise, based off of what taxpayers are comfortable with spending on on this situation. And so this allows us to give an average across the district that gives us a chance to restructure to try to meet those levels.
So Adam, obviously that's not achievable overnight. So
Correct.
what are we doing to try to?
So
massage
it's
that?
gonna depend on where we go. And we'll keep going here and. Yeah, we did that. Okay, so we talked about that, moving district boundaries, let's keep going, because I think we have extra slides on this. Jen's proud of her cars. She is.
Got a theme going.
Yeah. Jen takes all my simple stuff and makes it into.
Oh, yeah, you should have seen the old one.
Yeah. Okay, so this is gonna answer your question, Jason. So if, let's say, option one here is, let's say we have these community conversations and the gist that we get from the community is we would prefer to do boundaries as a solution. Then how we go through that process is gonna depend on how much time it takes. If we have to survey and figure out where boundaries need to be and all that, that's a different process than maybe taking another route of attendance centers or something like that. So I think the time period is much dependent on on what is chosen at the end. Okay, pros and cons of moving boundaries. Pros, obviously less movement of staff and families. They are very, our community for a long time now has had particular identities with their elementary schools and the areas that they serve. And then obviously integration of more grade levels means that we continue with K through 5 in a building. It is, end up with K through 5 continuing to be in a building if everybody continues to prefer that full-on elementary all the way through model that we have going on. Cons, obviously with any of this, there will have to be transportation adjustments. Anytime you're moving boundaries, your community changes, and so if you're gonna have to look at it again. If things get out of whack again, you're gonna have to look at your boundaries again later on. And obviously some students would have to change schools unless we came up with a structure in which they wouldn't have to if they aged out of it, instead of, we could come up with some ideas to release some tension with that. And then there's a possibility that teachers would have to change schools if depending on how that went down. And then yes, there would be less diversity across the district. Obviously, we have different parts of our community that are more diverse.
Why would you say that less diverse? Because it seems pretty diverse right now.
Because
Seems pretty,
because
If we move the
we have areas of our town that have students with higher socioeconomic status than we do other areas, and so what happens is you have,
If you change boundaries.
if you change
I
boundaries,
must be looking
then
at something wrong, somebody fill me in here, I'm thinking wrong. So, fix it. I don't know what I'm thinking.
so like right now, we have 4 elementary schools with
Yeah.
4 boundaries, right? So if we decided to go to 3 elementary schools, let's say, and then we use the 4th elementary school for, a different purpose, whether it be preschool, whether it be however we decide to structure that, then we would still have the 3 areas of town set up in boundaries, right? So if we have one part of town that has a higher socioeconomic status than another side of town, then that would not be as diverse as if everybody was more mixed together.
Okay, I think I'm having trouble with what diversity means. I'm thinking if it's diverse, that means it's a good mixture of people, of socioeconomic people. You have your higher end, you have your lower end. That's what that means you have a really diverse school.
So
This
there's
was-
I don't
going
think we
to
have
be,
diverse schools right now.
it's going to be
So
less
it
diverse.
would remain,
It'd be worse than it is now.
No.
well, it depends on how the boundaries are, but it would be,
Not necessarily worse.
there would be less diversity than if we mixed people together more, is what that's supposed to be saying. Maybe it'll make sense when we go on to the
Okay,
next one.
because
So if you had
I don't think we're
all-
diverse right now at all.
Yeah, if you had all the second graders and third graders in one
The
building,
attendance center, sure,
it
then
would
you've got
be
everybody.
very diverse,
Yeah,
because you
yeah.
have all the kids together. But when you have boundaries, people on this side of town are in this building.
I don't think
Yeah.
that's supposed to be saying less diversity than we have now. It's supposed to be saying there's less diversity within this
Okay.
model.
Yeah, I took it as it would give us less diversity, and I'm thinking.
Yeah,
So that, okay.
yes, I'm with you now. Okay,
Okay.
I'm sorry, I made you confused you.
Me too.
Well, I thought maybe I didn't know what diversity.
Yes. I think we meant that as a model, it would be less
Okay.
diverse across the
Like,
community.
how do you get any less?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No,
Okay, attendance centers, each grade level is combined in the same building, traditionally follow this format. You have 2 options. We have 4 elementary schools in town. So you could have option 1 would be a preschool building, and then a kindergarten first grade building, a second and third grade building, and a 4th and 5th grade building. Option 2 is you have preschool and kindergarten together, working together. You have first and second grade in a building, third and fourth grade, and then the 5th grade has their own building. So either the top level or the bottom level typically would take over that building, and that would be, you either have a preschool building that is purely running preschool, or you possibly have a 5th grade building that is similar to like our 6th grade center before they went on to middle school in the past. It would be more of an end of elementary. They have their own space to move on. Just options.
So
Hasn't
you
that been tried in this district
no, it's been talked
years
about
ago?
for 100 years.
I remember fifth grade center,
We had a, Roosevelt was
Sixth
sixth grade.
grade,
all
sorry,
sixth grade
We had
center.
That was
sixth
the
grade.
best.
Is that a good idea?
But that was also back when we had ninth grade in the junior high, so you had seventh, eighth, and ninth, and then your high school was 10th, 11th, and 12th. So that changed things.
Like Mulvane has K2, I mean, if I look at this, we're still using the same amount of buildings. And so we could have empty space possibly.
Possibly depending on how
Yeah.
preschool was set up. Yeah.
Mulvane has
Yeah, preschool now.
K3, preschool and K2 in one building, and then the other one has 3, 5. So that'd be 3 buildings, I guess.
But yeah, if we were able to fit it all.
Yeah.
If it worked with class sizes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
we'd have to
just-
figure all that out.
On either of those options, would it give mainly the fifth grade, the opportunity to practice switching classes and to be able to do
Yep.
with the
Oh yeah, you would wanna set it up pre-middle school,
Okay.
absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
But you are adding like full-blown preschool to that, right? You're not
Yes.
just talking one preschool class.
No, you'd be trying to meet across the community,
So
but
your
that also,
numbers are gonna come up.
yes, but that also gets into what Pat was talking about earlier with our partnerships with
Right.
other people, you know?
Whether, yeah,
How would
whatever
we-
option that might be. But
Yeah,
you're
how
planning on
would we,
pulling
how
all
would we
those
put
kids
that
in.
together? Because we have no interest in, we wanna be a partner, we do not want to break relationships with people who have been running preschools in the community, that's not the point.
Right.
The point is to reach 4-year-olds.
But roughly you said it's about 120 per class, so you're adding 120 kids
Yeah.
roughly minus
Yeah.
our current preschool that we're running in the future.
And our last couple classes have been a little bit lower than that, it's been creeping down closer to 100, so, anyway,
So
these are just options. I'm
So
sorry.
for the preschool, would if you integrated it into the school, would it be required for them to, or would this, because I mean, some parents want their kids to go to the Christian Academy or
Yes.
We Too, and that's just the way it is.
Correct.
So is this gonna open up an opportunity for the people that can't afford those and then can't get them into future, so this is opening up an
Yeah, this
opportunity
would
for
be,
other kids?
yes, this would, I mean, we would have to figure out a way to fund this so that it was
Okay.
free for people to come.
So it wouldn't be,
Are they talking about funding it?
but it wouldn't
Yes.
be required, or
No,
is it
I
required?
don't know that we can require it.
Oh, okay.
I don't know that we would be able to. I think a lot of people in the community would obviously jump all over it.
I didn't know that with the accreditation, if the state was gonna require preschool.
Not
to
as
be-
of now.
Okay,
They definitely want us in the game, so that we can continue to influence kids, but I don't think it's by law until they
Okay.
get to kindergarten.
but at least this gives the kids that can't afford the
Yeah.
private or the futures
Absolutely.
You
to
don't
get
even have
into
to go to
something.
kindergarten by law, as long as you're in first grade by 7.
That's
Oh,
right.
wow.
Is it still that way?
Yeah, or last I knew. Last 2 years ago it was, I would just check out preschool stuff and, you know, as long as you're in first grade by 7.
I think it's the way it is in most states, that, you know, it's your first grade.
I mean, I think everybody has kindergarten, but, you know.
So you don't have to go to.
You're not
you don't have to-
required.
You're not required, you could just enroll.
Yeah.
First
And
grade.
it's slowly come down over time, like we have all-day kindergarten that's fully funded now, whereas there for a while, we would provide all day, but we only were funded for half a day.
Yeah.
So that's changed over time as well. Okay,
Do you have pros and cons on that?
Yes.
we do.
Thank you.
If Jen's cars would stop.
I would have more on the cons, but that's okay.
Well, and we can add to that, we
Yeah.
don't just.
Yeah, this is just,
Yeah.
this
This
is
is
just
just
talking.
brainstorming stuff.
So, if you put, let's pretend like we're talking about second and third grade are in a building, in one of our buildings, okay? Student relationships, would be a pro in that situation because, at that point, all of your kids, much like currently, our entire classes come together in sixth grade from across the this would cause that to happen earlier in their school career, and so they would always be around those kids their age, you know, coming up through the system. So that would help with student relationships.
Whether they want to or not.
Whether they want to or not, yes, they would all be very used to each other.
But they would also have the opportunity to be in different classes each year.
Yes, that's
Because,
true too.
you know, with the way it is not like Washington, they're in the same class with the same students for 6 years,
Correct.
whereas this would give them an opportunity.
Yep, that's a good point.
Mm-hmm.
Staff relationships, the really nice thing is like right now we have, when we are trying to get second and third grade teachers together to meet on things, we have to find common times because all the district, you know, the schools are doing different things. then you would have all of those people across the district working in the same building, which would be great. It would also, for the administrator that was at that building would specifically be targeting second and third grade education across the board and working with all of those teachers. And so that's a positive as well. Which comes down to professional development and specifically in those target areas. Obviously space for preschool, we've talked about grade level focus, we've talked about easier to organize classes. So what is nice about attendance center idea is if you have a class that's coming through that has lower numbers than others, then you're able to adjust very easily because they're all together. And so if you need one less teacher that particular year because the third grade class happens to be smaller than the other two classes before it, then you don't have to get rid of anybody. You just take that teacher and have them hopefully volunteer to go to that spot. So maybe they have to go to fourth grade for this year because that's where the need is. But it allows you to fluctuate that staff a little bit easier. We already talked about that. Teachers working together. One of the cons is families that have multiple students in different grades across the district would have multiple drop-offs. That is a negative. Nobody can argue that.
And PTAs.
And PTAs, yes, connection to that school. Yep. Transportation adjustments, same thing.
Oh,
Jen,
the bus.
you really want transportation adjustments on it.
She wanted to emphasize.
She did.
Why
She did.
Call like diversity.
We should have more cars. Should have put more cars on. There we go.
Yes.
The bus is to be.
I think what you meant to put there actually is
A bus?
yeah. I think what she actually meant to put there, which would go to Pat's comment earlier, is this would actually make things more diverse because you would have everybody in that class in that school. And one of the negatives is you lose a little bit of that school identity as far as I went to Kennedy. I went to Lincoln, which has always been a part of our community. So you actually will go to all of those schools as you grow up through our system if you went to this. And
What would they be called? What would the t-shirts say?
yeah. And you would go up. You would go through the system. So you would go to each of those different schools. And because of that, though, it also takes away some of our longtime identities that are going with our current schools. As far as socioeconomic status and different things that have come up with those.
There have also been studies that students, it's detrimental to students to change schools all the time. Now, I know this is a mobile society, and I know we have kids that come and go and you see no more. However, I would like for us to look at that and think about some of those studies, and those are older studies. I have not looked at anything more recent.
Yeah.
But
Let me think of something.
I think it helps a kid to look at, and I understand it. I understand the pros and cons. I really do, and I understand why we're doing this, but I just want what's best for the kids.
Sure. We all do.
It's always been said, it's good for kindergartners and first graders to have the fourth and fifth graders to mix and that kind of thing.
Yep.
And when you said we've done this before, I don't know what year, it was years ago.
Well, I thought we did.
Well, we
I thought
did
I
it sixth
remembered.
grade down, but I mean, this was shown to the community probably, 30 years ago. And I mean, this whole building was packed with people out the door. Anybody remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Jason?
I do.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
no, but like you said, everything's different, people working,
Yep.
And I didn't like it, I wasn't here, but maybe I will, I haven't been here. There were, I've been going to 4 different, the drop-offs, but now it's a small town and people in Wichita, but
Yep.
I'm just, that was crazy.
Yep, there is definitely pros and cons. to
But
all of this.
I do know there's even bus problems out at Eisenhower, which has been a bus place forever, so.
I think Mulvane wants to split back, but they want to also have a bond issue for new high school and that. So financially, they're having troubles. Like the trend's moving back in some places. Like I wish we should be a trendsetter and move back to a junior high where we have 7th, 8th, and 9th graders together. Wouldn't that be cool? I don't have 9th grade in high school. 9th grade girls don't need to be in high school to senior age.
Yep. Okay, so, obviously, those are just ideas. And so, we are gonna want, across the community, and from our staff, we are going to want, their ideas. And so, we will be collecting that data and surveying people and, trying to bring all of that back to you. So, is there any, other ideas that the board has, this evening that you would like to add to this discussion? And like I said, we will bring this back to you for approval before we actually use it in the community in September.
How are you gonna do the community meetings? I mean, I know site councils is a good way to reach some people, but, how do you reach the community?
I think we can have multiple things. I think, chamber coffees, Lions Club, those community groups that are already together that welcome people in to speak. And then also I think we can have a town hall where we'll explain all of this and you just try to get it to as many people as you can. Yeah. You, at least you can say you gave them a shot.
Yeah.
So class sizes, this will still, as you know, as we creep towards September 20th, but this kind of gives you an idea of what's happened so far. And you can definitely see some disproportion there with a lot of things.
Wow.
And
So what's the slash mean, like
Each class.
each class.
There's in each
Okay.
class.
2 kindergartens at Eisenhower,
Yes.
one was 16, one was 17.
Yes, correct.
Wow.
Eisenhower's definitely got more than anybody else.
Well,
Washington's got 24 there.
There's a 24.
So,
But that's only one class.
But you got Kennedy, that's a big school.
Yeah, but that's only one
It needs to
teacher.
be filled up.
Oh,
Washington is,
that's true.
yeah,
uh,
of course, I've had 30 in that class.
we were talking about the other day,
Back in the day, but
we had 30.
not that was good.
You were mean though.
and
That's true, they were scared.
and this
They
is
were so
this is just a good time to say this, just because it's on my mind. But I will get phone calls typically throughout the school year from people who are interested in our district from outside of our community, and they live outside of our community. And oftentimes we will accept them if we feel like they are going to be a great addition to our district. And those, if they are in elementary, they always go to whoever has whichever school has the lowest numbers for that particular grade. So we always
Especially after
send
this
them
promo video we've seen, there's gonna be more.
Yeah.
Knocking down the door.
But yes,
Gonna do more videos.
That's right.
Well,
Sheldon's
So
bringing-
excited.
and when you think about, and I know you said that you're not talking about getting rid of teachers.
No, not at all.
We would do it with
Attrition.
Nutrition.
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 But those numbers are really, really low.
And this gives you an idea of your current class numbers as far as who's in school.
Do we know, how many in the elementary schools are like out of their boundary, out of their district?
I can find that out. I don't know that I have it memorized, but yeah, I can find that out. Yeah.
Yeah, there might be a few.
I mean, I know, we've been
There's
strict
some
on that
exceptions,
lately.
aren't there?
Yeah. And we've been
But not a
strict
whole
about
lot.
Yeah. No, there's not a ton, but there are numerous.
Well, none of those numbers.
This was a restructuring decision on my part because we were gonna be right at the when that person left. So that will need to be switched in the future because the classes will be different, obviously, unless kindergarten changes. That will be different. We were actually projecting this to be higher this year. before we did that, but we were not projecting that to be much different than that, which worked out.
So you're seeing that in first grade,
Yeah.
she would have 14 students next year.
And the other nice thing about preschool, getting in the preschool business and getting to know those kids is currently it's very difficult to know what your
Right.
we have kindergarten roundup, we have those things to try to get to know those kids, but not everybody shows up to that. So so you kind of try to get to the feeling across the district on how that's going to look, but it's kind of hard until everybody actually comes in and enrolls. Okay. Oh, sorry.
I don't know, say this out loud. You know, I don't, this was like, elementary teachers' certificates say, mine says K-9 now, and I think there's still some
Mine
other
does too,
too.
yeah.
So if we can't find somebody, now we're having substitutes. Could you know what I'm trying to say without saying it? Like one of the kindergarten
They could
teachers
actually go up
could
into
go
middle
to
school
fill
or
one of
even.
those
Sure.
for that year.
Yeah.
And
Use them across the, yeah, absolutely.
It's not very base feelings, but that would be a way to get a certified teacher
You're right.
in a spot and.
Yep, that is correct. Yep. If somebody doesn't actually leave, then yes, you are correct. So, the other option is obviously keeping the district as is, which is, obviously an option, not one that is going to fix anything, but we're definitely not gonna reach our goal if we don't make changes somehow, so.
When you think of attendance centers, are you thinking of using, like you were thinking, these schools that we have? Because when we were looking at that church one time, we were talking about how nice it'd be just to have a building and not use so many buildings. Are you at that point yet?
We're not there yet, but if we take on preschool, as we have seen, we are, for the most part, full enough that we can't, that we would need the extra space to make that happen. So I think we would still use our 4 buildings the way we have them. We would just need to decide how those are used, and get preschool in there as well, or any preschool programs.
Could whatever's going on, that whoever, 619, whoever's using Roosevelt's, could they go to Washington and then we would have that whole building the way it's situated for like all 5th grade if we did that? I mean,
sure. I mean, that's an option. We haven't talked to them about it,
I mean,
obviously.
I hate to lose it because they're helping us so much.
Yeah.
But that building works so perfect for, like you were saying, for.
Oh, you're just changing a building.
Yeah, I just saw that.
Okay.
I went to Roosevelt.
Obviously, if we keep the district as is, we, teachers, the pros teachers are where they are, and we just work through attrition. Parents can't send all kids to the one school. Cons are, there's no room for preschool. It costs the district more money currently with the way we are disproportionate across the district.
How many bus kids do we have?
Across the district.
That ride the bus in the morning to school and.
Yeah, I don't have that number memorized, but I can get it to you.
Yeah, I just.
It's not what it used to be.
No, not at all. I mean,
And they all go to Eisenhower?
yes.
The way it's been set up for a long time is it all rolls to Eisenhower. Yep. The middle school and the high school kids ride over there as well, and it all goes out. And just because of the law and the fact that our community is only a couple miles wide anyway, basically it's all basically country kids for the most part that have any transportation services that are part of it. So.
There are some special buses that run around.
Yeah, and there's some buses connected to
Yeah.
IEPs and things
Now,
like
I just
that.
meant how many rural kids ride the bus.
Yes, yeah, I don't
Well,
have
it
that
really
memorized, but
doesn't
I can-
matter.
Yeah, you're welcome.
We have to serve.
No, I know that. I was just thinking if they all went to another school, which,
Yeah, so
would that
back,
even out?
so back to what Jason
I
was
got it.
talking
I
about.
got
That might help.
back to what Jason was talking about, I think if the community is interested in boundaries, or the community is interested in attendance centers, or something completely different comes out of that, then that's gonna depend on the timeline that at that point, I would be able to come to the board and come up with a plan on how we were going to tackle what had been chosen, so. Okay, and then obviously we will be getting stakeholder feedback and discussion on this in lots of different ways. And obviously we'll use Shelby and social media and the website and all that stuff, but also we will actually be boots on the ground talking to different groups. Larry hasn't hit me up for Lions Club for a while yet, so.
I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, so
Bring Jen with all of her.
Yes, I will. So that'll, those types of things, I know that Shelby is working with the chamber for us to host a coffee here pretty soon. And so some of these things can start getting out there, but we want it to be approved by you guys to get out there first, and so that'll come up in September. That's it. So is there anything the board can think of off the top of their head that they would like us to add to this discussion at this point, or is that something you want to think about and bring back?
If you're not reducing the number of buildings used, I would like for you to look at the money factor. Because I would say that would be something that the majority of the community is going to look at. Is this saving us money? Is it?
See, even with you changing the class numbers, he was able to save about 40,000 just with attrition this year because that class was so small.
Right.
So if you think about.
Yeah, if you think about attrition, that's one thing, yeah. But still, you're looking at buildings, and I just would like for you to have those kind of
To still have
numbers
4
in there.
buildings seems.
Yeah, you still are
that
having
seems a lot.
four buildings,
But
not
it's
that
not-
I don't think it
Don't
looks like
say
we would
close
need
Washington.
them anyway. Which I'm not against there being 4 buildings,
Sure.
but I would just like for the numbers to be in there and
Budget
how
wise? Okay.
our savings would be.
Okay.
But with attrition, you're right, it makes a big difference.
Yeah, it's, I have told all of our staff and our teachers, I told them multiple times when we were discussing negotiations this year. We very much tried to share that. I had the whole auditorium full of everybody at the beginning of this year, and I shared that was the board's goal, and that there's no, nobody wants anybody to lose their job or their family. That is not the purpose of this. This is making smart decisions for our community and not affecting people's families and incomes.
Right.
So,
Adam,
yes.
I think we need to include in the discussion the facilities report on our buildings. I mean, we've got the 4 buildings, but they're not all the same age.
Correct.
It's a factor.
Yep.
I mean, Washington is the oldest building of the 4.
Yep.
And we've pumped a lot of money into that building recently.
Yep.
That our bond issue in 2014.
Yeah.
So, anyway, it's a factor.
That's I'm going to 6.
Yeah, you have, Washington is about 100 years old now. I mean, it's a 1920s building, so. You have both
That's right.
Lincoln and Roosevelt, which the district still owns, are both buildings from the 50s.
50s.
I went to Roosevelt.
And then you have Kennedy and Eisenhower, which are 1969, 70, right in there. Is when that was all being done. So that's kind of the age of elementary. So that's they've been around a while for sure.
Yeah.
So.
Speaking of that thing you were talking about, that survey or whatever that we had done for all the schools.
Oh, the facilities.
Yeah, it's in a booklet and all that, and we can
Yes.
come look at it. Could we just
And it's not complete yet. It is, I presented a piece of it to the board, but it is not complete. And then Kelly and I actually Kelly and I actually miscommunicated on that. He came in with a booklet, and I thought that he was saying that it was complete, and it wasn't. Because a couple of you guys were reaching out to me like, seriously, this isn't as good as what we originally thought. But that's on me. That's on me. So they're still working on that piece. I know that Larry had mentioned, or a few people had mentioned, them wanting to come up with staff feedback and some of the other things I saw in the other book. And it just didn't seem as complete, and that's because it wasn't.
Okay.
So,
Okay, I was wondering if we could,
yes.
have a meeting where you can just tell us,
About that?
yeah, I mean, I know it's here, but and I think I could look at it and still not see
Yep,
what I
yep.
needed to know.
So, that was on me. Okay. Any other thoughts on that?
Good discussion. So I guess we're moving on to our one action item on this agenda, the ballot question for at-large BOE election.
Yes.
Go, Larry.
So this is kind of a board-driven discussion. Board members have kind of come up with this idea of talking about this. So essentially, what's happened is the board had requested us to work with Martin Peck, who's our district attorney, to come up with a ballot question that could be, if the board wanted to and is interested in putting that forth to the community, then he put that is in your packet. As far as what he came up with, that would go out there. If the board chose tonight to make that something that goes to the election office, then I will get it over there, and essentially that will be on the ballot in November. And it basically allows the community to decide if they're interested in going away from our current district board elections, as you guys were all elected in, to at-large elections. And so basically it would be, doesn't matter where you live in the community, if you're a top vote getter, then you are in. So it would go to that type of process. But that's up to the community to decide. This is just the board sending it to the community if you are interested in doing so. And like I said, I'm not giving a recommendation on this. This has been much more of a board discussion than necessarily a discussion that I was in. I've just been doing the work for you.
Pat and I were talking, I just, the way this is worded, to me is confusing. I know what we're trying to do, what you just said.
Right.
But when I read this, I think the voter is gonna be confused as to what we're
That's
asking them.
what, yeah, which one?
Like that or both part.
Yeah, I was kind of confused as to the voting plan resolution, that's actually what they're gonna see at the voting machine?
I think they will see the
This here?
question. The
Are they
What's the
gonna-
question?
How about this thing?
This is the question right here?
There's the question mark.
Yeah, I think this piece would be in there with the question.
That's like reading Chinese.
Well, when it says or both,
Right.
what do you mean?
So
You can
Mark-
pick
Mark-
one and not
Mark-
the other, but
Martin
there's,
specifically said that it was required by statute that there had to be a plan to turn in with that, and they were connected, Larry, so I understand where your
you know what I
confusion
mean?
is.
You can't split them.
Yep.
I think the
Split
question is, are we gonna do the at-large like you said, or stick with the way we're
Correct.
doing it now?
Correct.
That's the question, we just gotta say it clearly.
And if it's yes, is it for
Right.
at large
Yeah,
or
what does yes
is it
mean?
for, yes?
Yeah.
The only thing I see is diversity, you know, and I know you said nobody's run against you, Jason, which is sad, nobody ever run, you know. But there is, you know, diversity. I would hate to see, you know, everybody from one side of town particularly.
True, but it's also, for some reason, it seems hard to get
Yeah,
people to,
That's the downside.
they, you know,
I don't even know who's on city council because I don't vote, so what's that been like?
Well, they went away from.
I know how they do it, but I just
the
mean,
wards.
is it, you know, is the city council diverse or are we all?
That was a fear that was brought up initially, and it's proven to be untrue.
Yeah.
They are. It seems like it's pretty well represented across the city. So,
That's my only thing, I don't think, I mean, it doesn't matter.
And I just feel that, you know, if someone's in Jason's district, for example, and they feel he's doing a great job, they're not gonna run against him, but they may be a person that could actually have good ideas,
Sure.
good.
Yeah.
That's my fear of not opening the boundaries
Yeah.
up
Right.
is.
Exactly.
You may be
Yeah.
missing some good people out there.
Right, right.
I don't see
I can,
understand that.
if here's where we're at, since I know that there were a couple people gone, to the August meeting, and so you guys wanted to push this so that everybody was here, which is great. It is due to the election office here before the beginning of September is when they wanted it. And so we're down to a little bit more of the wire now as far as getting something approved. So if you want to, really it's up to you if you want to approve it at all, or you just want to, stick with where we're at. But if you do want to send it to voters and you want to give me specific language that you would like me to check out with Martin before I send it off, then I can.
Are you allowed to put like a different, I mean, I know we have to have all the legal stuff, but are you allowed to summarize that? Cause like you go and it says, they always ask, should Judge so-and-so be retained? Yes, no.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
I'm in favor of doing that. I just,
Uncomfortable with the language.
Yeah.
It seems like that there used to be, on other things that have come up, other things we voted on, even at the state level, that they have made an
I
explanation.
can remember even,
Did we vote on the city
sometimes the
council
question should so-and-so,
Well, that's-
sometimes it's confusing. You're like, man, if I vote
Right.
yes for this, am I,
Voting against.
Right.
yeah, is that
But I
mean?
think that they've started, I somehow I remember that they've put in,
The
Was
last
there a vote
portion
on the
I-
city council changing?
What?
When the city council changed to the way it is, did the people vote on that change? What did that resolution, what did that look
It's a
like?
charter ordinance that
It's a
they
charter.
ended there under.
So that you didn't have to?
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
charter
I
ordinance.
thought we could look at, maybe that was clearer.
That last sentence though, shall the change in the method of election or voting or both, as described in the ballot above, be approved? So are you voting to approve or disapprove a change?
Yeah.
To me, it's not clear, but it's somewhat clear.
I just wonder why we have to say or voting plan or both.
Because you can choose
Can we
different.
just change the method of election? Not say
no,
those-
probably not.
Maybe not.
We're gonna have that town hall
You're
meeting.
talking about lawyers, they have to get their money.
I know, they do it by
Sorry,
word.
Martin.
Right. I guess I'm fine with going ahead and personally, I'm fine with voting for or against it tonight. We're allowed to change the wording out if we say we're approving the method or however we're doing it.
I can get with Martin, I just would, in your motion, I would like specifics as to the specific thing you want me to ask him. Because he's gonna sit down and, redo this, and I can get you that information, I just want that to be part of the motion so that I can be specific on it, so that you guys are all
So the
feeling
question-
good about it at the end of the day.
I guess I'd rephrase my question a different way. If we vote yes, we can vote yes that we're in favor of moving to at-large elections, but the wording doesn't have to be set in stone. Is that correct? Or not?
That makes more sense.
I think you could say upon
Upon
re-looking at
approval of
revisiting the wording with district attorney before sending it
Yeah.
on to someone.
Because all I guess I'm saying is the wording of that isn't going to make me feel different about, like, I'm in favor of at-large elections,
Right.
but just because that's worded where I don't understand
bothers
it
you,
doesn't
yeah.
mean that I'm not in favor of at-large elections. So
Yeah,
Yeah, I get that.
I've got a way to word it if one here.
Of course you do.
do we have to pay you lawyer money to
Yeah,
hear
you
this,
do,
Larry?
you will, yes, I'll send you the bill. That last sentence there has two ors in it, or. How about we say, shall a change in the method of election / voting plan as described in the ballot title above be approved? And that takes out all the ORs out of it, because
Both.
those ORs confuse me. What do you mean? Is there a choice here?
But to get to this point where you know what you're talking about, like you said,
You
you
gotta put all
gotta
this-
understand this stuff.
Yeah, which,
Then-
I thought that was okay. That voting plan A,
Then
Well, I kinda
When do we
needed,
have to have this back?
I kinda needed this
It
plan.
needs
They
to be
said,
done
they
by-
said beginning of
Yeah.
September.
Right, so we need
There we
to,
go.
You
We
need
can do it,
to
but
you
you
need
have
to
to
vote
use
on
that
it.
plan
Right.
of change thing to decipher that paragraph. And you won't have both of those.
Yeah, the plan to change thing does help understand
You're not
this,
gonna go read, okay, and then.
because Plan C is,
I mean, worst case, we have to just run a bunch of
Existing.
advertisements on channel 55 to
Yeah.
explain it, or
Yes.
Shelby can fire up the old
Yes.
media wagon and
Yeah,
Make
Yeah.
a video.
sure.
explain
Make a
it.
video,
I mean, you
yeah.
can
Make a
explain it
video.
without being
Those
for or
pictures are
against
useful.
it. You know?
Can you do that? Can you like put together a video explaining, like on newscast, and just click here and watch the, I know they do city council and us and everybody, can you do that?
Yeah, we just talked about Shelby can get
Shelby's
Well, I
that.
know, that's what I mean.
Shelby can get her little thing.
But I would want it real clear and concise and not, you know.
It says that
If I
we're,
Okay, so I would entertain a motion on that if anybody.
Okay, I'll second Tom's motion that he just said.
I didn't even have a motion. I was
Well, it
just.
sounded like
He was
it.
just
No, I never said I make a
he
motion.
was just talking.
I was.
He
Right.
just said that he approves an at-large
He
election.
was voting before he.
All I wish is that I would have invited Martin.
Right.
That's what I'm wishing. But I can still get with him and have him revisit language. If you want to make a motion and take action tonight, then I can revisit the language with him to try to make it a little more clear if that makes you comfortable. So basically, you'd be voting on the concept,
Of
and
the
I could
at-large.
revisit the language. Yeah.
Who's gonna vote in November anyway? I mean, what's there to vote for?
school board.
School board.
Well, I know, but that's what I mean, who?
Well, and this,
And count, and city election.
whatever
Is
this is.
is there city council?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So there's
Yes.
city council and then school board, and that's it.
Probably.
That was such a smart
What
thing.
do you think of this?
Yeah, I don't
Real
think
quick.
there's anything.
Larry, you also need to carry your sewer management book that you've been, because you're a lot more credible when you have
I
that.
left
big
it
thing.
at home.
Yeah, so I don't know if you can argue with the lawyers without that notebook sitting there, so.
They changed it to November, it should have been on like.
We're digressing.
We're off.
So did we get a motion on the table?
I will make a motion to.
There we go.
Are you going to, or you
I
want me
would, I would like to make a motion to move the USD 353 election process to an at-large process.
Got a motion?
Second.
We gotta wordsmith it a little bit.
Second.
No, I'm done, that's a,
Okay, I got a motion and a second. All those in favor, raise their hand. All those opposed, same sign. Okay.
now if you would like to make another motion to,
So
Change the words.
we'll figure it out.
Okay, we do have board member comments on here if anybody has any.
There's
Oh,
your
Seeing none, I think we are adjourned.
All right.
Thank you all.
very much.
Thank you.
My law degree didn't get me any good tonight.
What did you do on the outside?
Yeah.